This is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a marvelous day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. Well, we see that the NAACP has issued a travel advisory to Black Americans, warning them against traveling to Florida, joining Latino and LGBTQ groups. This article is from the New York Times, and it begins with, the NAACP urged people to consider Florida's policies on diversity and race under Governor Ron DeSantis when thinking of traveling there. Well, the NAACP stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So it's talking to Black people. It's not just talking to colored people or people of color. It's talking to Black people. This is Derek Johnson. He is the president and CEO of the NAACP, and he issued the travel advisory saying, we are advising African Americans and others that if you travel to Florida, beware that your life is not valued. This is what he said on CNN this morning. NAACP President Derek Johnson on Monday said African Americans' lives are not valued in Florida, which is why the organization has issued a travel advisory in response to the state's education, immigration, and LGBTQ policies. We didn't end here overnight. It was because of the election, Johnson said on CNN this morning. So we have to prepare for the next election so we can get rid of him once and for all. This othering that we have seen first by Trump, now by him, is not only un-American, it's dangerous. And we have to right-size this landscape. So, since Latinos and LGBTQ groups are upset over Governor Ron DeSantis' conservative policies, Black people are supposed to be upset too. And he's right. This is about politics. This is about Ron DeSantis planning to run for president of the United States. And the left-wing Democratic machine is trying to cripple him before he gets started because they don't want another Donald Trump. I'm not saying that that's not a legitimate concern. I think it is. But how Ron DeSantis is going to be opposed, to me, is important. Are we going to take LGBTQ and Latino issues and oppose him with them, or are we going to stick with our own issues? So I just think this is about pulling Black people in a direction that somebody else wants us to go. What this looks like to me is that the NAACP is trying to use Black people's bully pulpit, such as it is, and gift for protesting to fight for something that doesn't have anything to do with us. Earlier in the year, Ron DeSantis came under fire because he opposed the African American college placement course of study, because in that course of study there were classes that focused on queer people and LGBTQ issues and feminist issues and things that were of concern to some African Americans, but not all African Americans. So if you're going to do a course of study of African American history, you have to start at the beginning, not in the middle. You have to start with the things that affected everybody, like slavery, like Jim Crow, like redlining, like mass incarceration. Those are the things that many of us thought should be included in that course of study. Not that the other issues weren't important, but it's the things that affect everybody that should be put in the course of study. So this is really not Black Americans' fight. This is the fight between Ron DeSantis, LGBTQ groups, and Latino groups. So the real fight is illegal immigration. Ron DeSantis and the governor of Texas have got the nerve to send the people who come into their states illegally out of their states and into these states where you have liberal governors and Black mayors. So it's really that illegal immigration fight. The LGBTQ people have issues with him too. As a whole, Black people do not trust men like Ron DeSantis. He's a snake. His type has always been a snake. But in this particular instance, our issues are not centered. Ron DeSantis has taken a strong and firm stand against illegal immigration, as he has done with some of the LGBTQ issues. So he is a conservative governor. He's not a friend of Black Americans, and most Black Americans see him as, if not an enemy, definitely not a friend. So I'm saying that we might want to sit this one out, but we don't sit it out in comfort because we have our own issues and we have our own fight with people like Governor DeSantis. But we just need to keep the focus on our issues is what I'm saying. Black Americans have a fight that's uniquely ours. We care just as much about the things that affect us as they do about the things that affect them, but they don't show up for our fight. So my rule of thumb is to listen to what the Black people who are living in Florida have to say about this. What are they saying about Governor Ron DeSantis? I'm sure there are things about his agenda that they don't like. And so this is a battle that I'm not really sure that we need to be on the front lines of. I don't say that we should support what they're, we shouldn't be, going gangbusters trying to show that we won't support the Latinos and LGBTQ people. But I don't think this is something that we need to be dragged into on the front lines, especially Black people who like to protest, because there are those of us who like to be in a big protest, a big march, have signs and things. Some of us like that. But it ought to count for something, and it ought to count for something that means something to us. Dragging Black people into this and trying to make Black people think that Ron DeSantis is your biggest enemy is really a distraction by the NAACP as far as I'm concerned. Because Black people are continuing to talk about reparations and getting money. So they want to talk that down. We don't want to talk about reparations. We don't want to talk about the disparities in the health and educational system. We don't want to talk about police brutality because Black people are still victimized by poor policing. I'll put it that way. It is a distraction against the issues that are important to Black Americans. And so what we do, the Latinos and LGBTQ communities are upset. So Black people, we need to get, write up some signs and put on your marching boots and get out there and tear down this system so LGBTQ people and Latinos can have a better life. We have to make a conscious decision to stop being the mules of this society, stop letting people use us for their gain. And then when they get what they want, they turn around and give us the middle finger. We know that can happen. So we have to be strategic too. Look at what's happening in Chicago. Black people are fighting against all of these immigrants being brought into their communities, taking up resources that Black people need. And while other groups of people have the luxury of being indifferent toward our issues, we apparently don't have the luxury of being indifferent towards theirs. Because if we show indifference, in we don't care, they'll say, or we're xenophobic, or we're jealous, or we're all these other things that they don't get called when they're not interested in what's going on with us. And it's not even Black people being mean or not being compassionate. When people come into your community like that, they take up your community resources. I was just talking to a friend who lives in a suburb of New York City. She said the mayor of New York City was sending busloads of illegal immigrants into their city. And the mayor said no and placed state troopers at all of the entrances coming into that city and said, stop any of them that come in here. Do not let them into this city. They are going to drain you of your resources, and in many cases don't even appreciate the hospitality that's shown them. And they will change the culture of your city. So to let all of these people in, giving them hotel rooms and food and just making them seem like honored guests in your city, I think it's a mistake. And many Black people are complaining about this. People who are homeless or have family members that are homeless are saying, I would like a hotel room for my family, or I would like a hotel room. So these are things that we have to look at separate from whatever the NAACP is talking about. So you really have to choose your battle. What's your position on this? Because you really should take care of your own people first. And they keep telling these people not to come, and they're coming anyway. They're coming anyway. I don't care what you say, I'm coming. We really have to choose our battles very carefully, because there are things that we care about that nobody is fighting for except us. And these distractions are to get us away from the things we care about. And so I say, if you want to go to Florida, you make the choice. It should not be based on what any other group or any organization says. If you want to go to Florida, if you want to take your children to Florida, that is your decision. And it should not be influenced by anything anybody else does that doesn't impact you. That's kind of how I see it. And my final say on this is that until these other groups of people start respecting the things that matter to us, when they show up for us, then we can show up for them. And not until then, it doesn't matter what the NAACP, Reverend Sharpton, Reverend Jackson, whomever is able to speak, it doesn't matter. Until they show up for us, we don't show up for them. So, are you going to Florida? It's your decision. Okay, y'all, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.